Good afternoon. This is Dawn Tesoro from Fidelity Photos, and you're here at Fidelity on Location. Today, my guest for Wellness Wednesday is Mery. She's a life coach. She's my personal friend, and she's also known as Mery the Nerdy Coach. She loves working with creatives, and we're going to talk about exactly what that means. And I just want to welcome you, Mery.
Thanks so much, Dawn, for having me here. It's so much fun to be in this space and be with you and talk about something that I'm super passionate about, and it's life coaching and helping others. So really excited about being here today.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm so glad we get to spend this time together. And I just want to talk a little bit, or have you talk about what you mean when you are passionate about working with creatives. Like, who's a creative?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Dawn, because I think we're all creatives in some way, shape, or form. And so I started my life coaching journey about 3 years ago. And initially, I started working with people around job transitions, and it's still a lot of what I do. Like, that's actually the access point for by which people find me. But in working with people, I'm finding that they have all these hidden talents, all these interests, and sometimes we're a little bit shy about bringing them out because we have all these judgments about what it means. I'm too old for that, or I'm not good enough to actually put this out there. There are so many stories that actually block that creativity, or I don't have time for that. I have to be a working mom or working father or full-time, whatever it is.
Yes.
And we put that side of ourselves down and we bury it, and people are not going to be able to relate to that. And so in the last year, I've been really focusing with people on really harnessing those talents. And what are those? What are those hidden creative sides that we have? And of course, as a coach, the work starts with myself. I'm like,
yes, every day, right?
every day. So I'm like, so where am I holding myself back? What are some of the things that I haven't been so upfront and authentic with? And how do I integrate that into all aspects of my life? And that's actually what led me on this journey to create this really fun, amazing podcast with a colleague where we talk about anime, like Japanese animated series, and we look for the life coaching lessons in them.
Oh, okay. So you're taking an actual anime series and then interpreting it through the lens of creativity and life coaching. Am I understanding that?
Yeah, so a lot of I'm not sure. I mean, people sometimes watch anime, sometimes don't, but a lot of the reason that I think anime works for life coaching is because they are so rich in stories and so rich in looking at the human experience. And there's a lot of life coaching that we can take out of that. There are a lot of life lessons that we can take out of anything, but since anime is one of my passions, one of my nerdy passions, and it's something that it's fun to explore from that coaching lens. But you could do the same thing by looking at a painting or watching The Bachelor if that was more your thing.
Life lessons through The Bachelor.
There are life lessons in almost anything. It just so happens that anime is one of the things that a lot of people have feelings about because they're like, oh, I'm not sure how people are going to receive this side. It's not really common. People have all sorts of judgments around anime and what it means and what it means to be an anime lover. And I was like, well, and I was talking to a colleague who's also really into anime, and we're like, this would be such a good podcast and such a great breakthrough for ourselves in authenticity and voice and creativity.
Right.
And that's how our journey.
Oh, that's so exciting. Now, what episode? I know that this is pretty recent. When did you start your podcast? And
we started last summer in July. And
wow.
Yeah, we've been very consistent with it, and we've been slowly but surely growing our audience. And it's one of those passion projects for me. It's so much fun to put together. It doesn't feel like work. I get to watch anime,
You get to watch anime and call it work. That's
and
like
call
me.
it work.
I get to build costumes and call it a job. Yeah.
Yeah, and we spend a lot of time. We actually put a lot of energy and time into okay, what are the lessons that we can take from this? What do we think people will want to hear and relate to in these stories? And it's so fun to be able to say I get to do this. And I think that's the lesson in being a nerdy creative coach It's the part where you get to say, I get to do this. Not I have to, not I want to, but I get to.
Yeah, I get to. It's a privilege and it's easy. I actually have a coach myself, and I get coached weekly. I think it's such an essential part of my experience, having an accountability partner, having someone to put light on shadows of things that I may not be looking at and push me out of my comfort zone when I need to be pushed. Um, but I was explaining to her, she was asking me about, because we were working on balance, life balance and things like that. She was asking me, you know, well, what is your downtime? Like, how do you fill your vessel? How do you take care of yourself? And I was just like, photography. So I'm a full-time photographer, but yeah, I'm so in love with it. And so the answer was, if I can shoot whatever I want and create a scene, a set, a costume, or be with a friend or a model, or, that's what I want to do. Whether we're on location, we're in my studio, I'm just 100%. And that's what fills my vessel, even though it looks like work.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Dawn, because as I've been working more with people and we've been focusing on what fulfillment and joy looks like and what bringing your authentic voice looks like and what bringing out these hidden talents look like, we find that they're actually sourcing for people. So if your passion as a child was to dance or to paint, and if you could just take a canvas and say, I'm just going to allow myself, allow is really important. You have to give yourself the permission to
Right.
play. I'm just going to play. Good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, just play.
Right.
Because what you'll find is as you do more of that, you're actually filling your cup because now it's not something you have to do, not something you have to show others. It's something that you're doing for yourself because it's
Exactly.
fun.
Exactly. And you know what I find, as you're talking about it, one of the things that I do is compete. And in competing, and I get judged internationally, and it's not really for me because I'm doing it for them, but I'm doing it for me. So it's kind of like a great um what oxymoron almost. Like I'm doing something because I choose to, and I have to do certain things to get points. And in the beginning it was a huge have to.
Yeah, and I think that's also a really good coaching topic because there's a certain attachment that we have when
To the
we have
results.
to the results, when we have expectations and how it should go and how we should be performing or doing
Right,
certain things or
exactly.
not doing certain things. But when we're actually playing and we let go of the results of how it should look like, we're actually just having fun. And whether it wins or doesn't win, it doesn't matter because you're actually creating for yourself.
Exactly. And then in doing that, you like I have found for myself in doing that, I don't care about the results because what I generated was joy, hopefully for the other person as well as myself. And then I'm hoping that I'll stumble across like the donut hole, you know what I mean? Like that mistake that's like becomes my thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I think but it's even just being in that energy where you're playing and you're just like, well, it's gonna happen and we'll see where it goes.
We'll see what points we get, right?
And
Or
yeah,
whatever.
and what's exciting about it is that when you're in that energy, when you're in that play, when you're in that fun, it's people are attracted to that. Like people want to say, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you up to?" I mean, the reason we're in this conversation is because, hey, that looks really cool. What you've been up to. Let's talk about that. So it's like gravitates to like. And but when you're too attached to results, when you're actually not allowing yourself to explore yourself and be with yourself in all different ways, it's almost like you're keeping yourself shut,
Mhm.
restricted from being seen in certain ways, in certain lights.
And that makes me think of your I don't know if you want to call it a banner, your name, your tagline, but Mary the Nerdy Coach, like people think of nerdy and they think of Urkel. If you
Yeah.
will, you might be a little too young for Urkel, but you know
Yes.
what I'm saying. Like they think of like pocket protector and stuff, and that's not you at all. So what is your definition of what nerdy is?
Yeah, so I think what was fun about nerdy is one, I could be Urkel. I could totally go down that. I'm definitely,
You could
I
be
mean,
Urkel-esque.
yeah, I mean, I definitely have that smart, introverted, sometimes socially awkward side to myself that, could come out as nerdy. But I also think that nerdy means just like having deep passions for things. Like I could spend hours reading on like biology and then like photosynthesis and just like going down this rabbit hole of like, well, how did this happen and how does that work? Or I could spend hours reading manga and anime. And, I think all those are things that are quote unquote nerdy about myself. It's just like all these hidden sides, all these different multifaceted aspects that we have that sometimes we just don't bring to light as much. So an intention for me with nerdy was like, well, what does that look like for everybody else? What if we could just be free with whatever those things are, whether it's, I don't know, maybe you're like a cheese expert and
Right.
that's your thing, like, or a coffee connoisseur, like we have so many hidden passions that we love and we obsess over and we dive into, and sometimes we consider those like, oh, I don't really want to talk about those things, but oftentimes those are the things that make us really fun and creative and different and unique, and like, oh, tell me more about that thing that you're doing that's so interesting and unique to you.
Right, like coin collecting or stamps, like those things are
Right.
considered nerdy. But also I'm thinking of nerdy as those things, and you were talking about it before, those things that we feel awkward about.
Hmm.
Like, so like you said, socially awkward before, like that that weird sense of, oh wow, there's like 20 people at a networking meeting and now I have to show myself somehow.
Yep.
And I that's how I feel nerdy. Like I feel nerdy in those moments where I'm like, I don't know if I want to, I want to stay on the side of the wall and drink my wine by myself instead.
Yeah. And can you imagine if we were at a networking event and actually said that to people?
Right?
Like if we just went up to, hey, I'm really uncomfortable in these events. I never know what to say.
And I feel really
And
awkward and
I feel
weird.
really awkward. And can you imagine the response that you would get? Because it's probably going to be one of two. It's probably going to be like, oh, you're going to get the person who totally relates. And it's like, me too. And I
Right.
see you. I'm so uncomfortable in these too.
Exactly.
I'm so glad you said something. Or you're going to get the person who's like the extroverted networker. He's like, oh, well, this is how I do things. And this is what I do in these situations. Either way, it's like you showing up in your authenticity and your truth and actually making something of that rather than holding it in fear or judgment or just like shying away from who you are.
Yeah.
It's shining.
Yeah. So I love that. And it's what I love about having a conversation with you is that I'm thinking like you're speaking, and I guess that's like the secret of a good coach. You're speaking and all these things are coming up. Like I'm thinking of all these things, all these examples and all these ways that so what I was thinking about was, and I had mentioned this earlier when we had to pause. I made a nerdy mistake. And you were so compassionate with me as I forgot to hit record. But, what I was thinking was how, most of my career was an accountant. And that was a very concrete, conscious decision choice that I made as a youth, in high school, because I always wanted to have a job, which was very practical and very adult. And I put all the creativity literally like away and said, this is child's play and it's time to grow up and pay the bills or whatever. And I spent many, many years in a job that did not create joy and passion for me because I put the creativity down. Like imagine if I would have allowed the creativity to flow, I probably wouldn't have been an accountant that long. I mean, I think timing is perfect and I embrace my whole experience and I'm grateful for where I am. But once I unleashed the creativity, like Pandora's box, it's like a whole different. In fact, my husband said to me the other day, he said, oh, what did you do today? And it was, I was doing practical accounting sort of tasks. He goes, wow, that sounds really boring. And that doesn't sound like you at all anymore. And I said, it's not me anymore. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in what you said, Don, and I think that you are right in that there is divine timing in everything. and we go through certain experiences
Yep.
to learn certain lessons and to get to a certain place. And me too. I wasn't always a coach, but coach is a brand new career to me. And what I think what I'm getting from your story is that, and then the people that I've worked with, is that it's okay to explore your passions. It's okay to allow yourself to be a kid and play. And if can I share a funny story that's coming up to me
Yeah,
right
of
now?
course. Of course.
Um, so for the first time, I've been going to the gym a lot. That's part of one of my projects that I've been working on this year, is like my fitness, my physical fitness, along with my mental health fitness. I was
Sure.
like, well, my mental health is pretty good. I feel really supported. My physical fitness needs some work, so let's focus there.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things that I've been doing is like, how do I make this fun? How do I like apply that fun and joy that I tell people to find in their work into this project? And I'm like. So I started looking for classes that I knew would be fun for me. And
Right.
one of them has been Zumba. And I was like,
I was going to say Zumba 100%.
yeah, I was just like, I
It's
just
so
want to
fun.
dance. I was like, if
Yeah.
you tell me to dance for an hour, call it a workout, let's do that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like cheating.
Yeah. And so I told my mom to join me on one day. And what's interesting about Zumba, and for those of you who've taken classes, I'm sure you know, but there are certain steps in Zumba. And
Yes.
I remember the first time I took Zumba ever, I had no idea what was going on. I did my best to follow, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to dance. It'll be fine. And so, and I know that for a lot of people, that's something that actually is really uncomfortable and outside of their comfort zone, to go into a class and people are all
Yeah.
doing the same steps. And
Definitely. That's a nerdy moment for sure.
yeah, and here I am stumbling over myself. And I'm like, it'll be fine. But I'm used to putting myself in uncomfortable situations at this point. So I just kind of go with it. And I suggested that my mom come with me because she's been wanting to work out too. And I was like, "Well, this is going to be interesting. Like, I want to see how she, because she loves to dance, but she's never actually gone to a Zumba class." And the thing that I love about my mother in that moment was that she had no idea what was happening. English is not her first language.
Oh
So,
gosh. Oh no.
so and then she was just like, at one point, she's just like, I'm just gonna dance. So you see my mom dancing to her own rhythm, to her making her own
So
steps, and
great.
she's having fun. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly what it's about. Because when you're trying really hard to follow the steps and make it look a certain way, it looks forced. And you're actually not
Yes.
having fun at that point because you're so hyper focused on getting it right.
Yes.
But we're actually doing your own thing and let go and release and say, it's fine. I'm going to work out either way. The result
Either
is
way,
going to
I'm
be the same.
sweating. Yeah, I'm sweating.
Then you actually enjoy the experience more and gives you access to something different, because now she's like high energy and it makes me high energy, which makes the people around us more high energy as well. So you're all having more fun together.
And also by your mom being her authentic self and letting go of worrying about what other people were thinking about her, she was giving people permission to do the same thing. Because
Yeah.
we're all, I think we're all, there's one book that I have read, and it's called Broken Open. And I don't remember the author at the top of my head, but she has this coined phrase that she says, we're all bozos on the bus. Like we're all the same. And we all have those nerdy moments. You might be the top Zumba, competitor, but I don't know, maybe you can't make brownies good, but we all collectively, we can get it together if we all allow, if number one, we allow ourselves to be nerdy and authentic. And number two, we give permission to other people.
Yeah, and Don, I'm going to tell you, it's a practice, because you're looking
Definitely.
at because you're looking at someone who likes to get things right. So
Yeah.
even for me, this is a practice, which is why I've embraced the name so much, because to come out and make a mistake in public for me is like a huge faux pas. Like, I like to be prepared. I like to know what I'm going to say. I like to present it well. I like to look like I know what I'm doing, even if I don't, fake it till you make it. So to practice something in authenticity where I'm just showing up and I'm saying, I don't know, like, I'm
Right.
just gonna go with it, has
Yeah.
been a huge breakthrough for myself as well. But um, as a coach, I feel that if I'm not doing the work, if I'm not actually putting myself in the situation, I can't coach others to that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point and a great testament of what kind of coach you really are. And what I'm thinking of, before I was talking about competing, and I was I an accountant by trade. An accountant has to be pennies
Hmm.
match, debit,
Hmm.
credit. Everything is linear. Everything is perfect. And so then I go into this competition and I'm trying to fit myself into the judges, teachers. What do they want? What are the points? How am I going to get it? And I put myself into a new box. So I went from like the accounting box to the new box. And then one day I just did what you said. Like I embraced like, well, let's just have fun. What can I do? And the experience, my scores, I'll be honest, my scores are the same. So maybe I go up a point. Like I work really hard, I go up a point, but I'm having so much more fun in the practice. And I feel like what I am doing with myself and with the people that are in front of me is creating something, a great experience for both of us. So in that, I'm okay because I'm out of the box,
Mhm.
and I'm pushing past. It's kind of funny because I'm saying pushing, but it's not pushing. It's really letting go, like you said.
Mhm.
Like pushing is resistance, and then you just let go, and there's freedom in that. And then it's just like, oh, let's try this. Oh, let me make you really big. Let me make you really small. Let me shoot you through the computer screen in the dark, like we did with you. Just what
Yeah,
are the possibilities? And then you
right,
live in a whole new space.
right. And yeah, I mean, I love that because yeah, the results may not look different, but you're different. Your approach, your being is different.
Yeah, the beingness and the angst. Like
Mhm.
I would get angsty, and I'd get scores, and then like being like a ball, like oh, and now it's just like, oh, cool, I made points, I didn't make points, and I had
Mhm.
so much fun. So
Exactly.
it's
And I think
different.
that's the key. That's the goal. Because if you're having fun, it's not work anymore.
It's not work anymore. No.
If you're having fun, there's actually a sense of fulfillment that you're getting out of it. There's a sense of joy and purpose that you're putting there.
Yeah.
And that's actually the thing because we can create that in our lives at any point in time. This is oftentimes we don't have the awareness or the tools to be able to look at it that way because we're so stuck in how we've done it before and the stories that we've created around it.
Yep.
Like you could look at your work and say, "Oh, this is so boring. Like I have to do numbers when all I want to do is take pictures and have fun and be free."
Right. Right. Right.
But you've taken this thing and you're like, "How do I make it work for me? Who do I want to be in this situation that will make it go different? That will actually bring
Exactly. And
meaning and purpose and
and what's the
joy."
balance that works in my life? So like I do some corporate accounting work so that I don't have to worry as much about finances, but
Mhm.
that's the payoff that gives me the freedom to play. So I get to play sometimes or talk, have great conversations with people like you. And honestly, I'm thinking back to, when I started seriously pursuing portrait work, and you were one of my first people that came, and you were like, I just want to play, and you had like beads and hats, and you were the first one that kind of pushed me out of the rules of the lighting has to be this way, because you can make anything super like overthought and super nerdy. And you were just like, oh, I want to play with this and I want to do that and I want to do contrasty. And you helped me start to think of how do we make this fun and not so serious.
Yeah, so it's funny that you say that, Don, because one of my coaching buddies said to me, "You know, Mary, I've realized that if it's not fun for you, you're not going to do it." I was like, "You're so right." I was like, "You're so right."
Yeah.
And like, I work very hard, even in those tasks that you might think are quote unquote boring. I work really hard. The thing is, I make them fun for me. Like, that's how I'm able to do that. But that moment with you, Don, was really special for me as well because it was one of those moments that even for me, I was reaching that breakthrough that, okay, what is it that I want to do and does it look like and what does it mean for me to actually just allow myself to play? Because like you, I've had like a somewhat corporate background. I've always done everything that I was supposed to do. I've been
Uh,
very responsible in life.
the rule followers.
I've always been a rule follower. And so allowing myself to just express myself, express my creativity with my body, with my facial expressions, is fun. It was fun for me, and it was just like, this is what it could look like all the time if I actually let myself go. Because as you know, and I'm sure you can talk to this, taking photographs can be really uncomfortable too.
It can be extremely awkward, 100%. Yeah. And especially even for the photographer, some people don't
Mhm.
realize that, like, you know, there's 10,000 variables that I'm all watching all at the same time, and I get to be with you and pull out what you're all about. And
Mhm.
and it's like my brain's going to explode. But
It's a lot.
now, yeah, but now I have the mechanics done. So that's partly what I was thinking about before was, even though I've allowed creativity, fun, and gotten out of the box, I think a good thing, a good discipline is also mastery, where you can, mastery allows you to let go of the super nerdy, I have to figure out how the camera actually works or how the light makes you look amazing. And once I've figured that out, then the ticket to fun is right there, because I don't have
Yeah.
to worry about the mechanics. I
Yeah.
got the mechanics down.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good point. I mean, uh, you can play at any point in time, but if you're actively thinking, this is what I want to make my goal, this is what I want to make my career, this is what I want to make my full-time passion, then mastery is important. Like putting in the work to being able to master those skills, that ability, and get to a point where you can say, now I know all of it. Now I can just let go and play. It's almost like, I think the way that I think about it most often is by playing a piano.
Yes.
Like first you have to learn all the keys, all the notes, and you have to practice over and over. And at first it sounds really weird and awkward and very stiff.
Yes.
And then the more that you do it, the more that you master it, it actually starts to flow. And then it becomes melodic. And then you can just play with it. And then you
Yes.
can do your own thing.
Yes.
But it does require a certain amount of discipline, a certain amount of passion and commitment to be able to get to that point. And that
Yes.
doesn't mean that you can't have fun with it. It just means that that commitment has to be there.
Yes. So it's, and I think what's important is a lot of times we're committed to things that we think we should be committed to because we made up a story around it. Like, oh, society wants me to commit to this, or my mom wants me to be this, or my spouse, or whatever. And then once we realize that we can be committed to something different. And I think what you're doing for people is exploring what are the things that they're hiding away, so they could access them, so they can
Yeah.
find out where they want to be
Yeah. And
and what
look,
they want to
sometimes
do.
those are things that they want to make into full time passions. And sometimes they're just access points to more fulfillment in different areas of their life. So it
Right.
depends, right? It's different depending on the person. But I think there is something for ourselves, I think for anyone who's listening, in that if I were to ask you as a child, how did you play? As a
Mm.
child, who did you want to be when you grow up? As a child, what did you aspire to or the things that you were interested in? I think that's a really fun convo because
It is, because being a nerdy accountant may be it, and it may
yeah,
not be.
right. If you asked me that question, I would have been like, I wanted to be a ballerina, you know?
Exactly.
And it's like now at this point in my life, I don't want to be a ballerina anymore. But I do love to dance, hence the Zumba. And that's one way that I get to dance and express myself in a way that's also nurturing that child and that child play. So
Yes,
it's like
yes.
there are so many different ways that we can look at it. And sometimes the thing that we wanted to be as a child is the thing that we want to be now. And we're just not allowing ourselves to even go there because we think it's not practical, it's not going to work, blah, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter is that if that passion is there, if you're not being fulfilled by what you're currently doing, then maybe that's a conversation you want to have and you want
Yeah,
to look at
yeah.
because life is
Right.
too short.
Yeah. So I have a question about, like, your coaching style. So some people have, like you said, the access point for a lot of people for you to find you is wanting to change their career.
Mhm.
And what does that look like? Do you coach people, until they find their way, or do you have a program? How do you work your program?
Um, so it doesn't look the same because nobody is at the same place, and all the people I've worked with are very actually very different fields.
Right. So
So
you basically tailor it to the
I tailor,
person.
yes. I mean, the way that I coach and the way that I was trained to coach is to be with the individual where they're at. So where you are is exactly where you need to be and is exactly perfect. And what I do with you is I ask you, hey, Don, like, what's the goal? What do you want to get out of this coaching relationship? Where do you want to go? And you'll tell me, oh, I want to totally change careers and I want to be, I don't know, a fashion designer. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Or you tell me, you know what, Mary, I'm actually not sure. I'm thinking about ABC and I don't know which route is the best route for me.
Right.
Or you tell me, I have these ideas. I don't know whether I want to stay with the same company, or if something else is calling to me right now.
And then you take it from there, and then
And
obviously
then we create a plan.
that's
Okay,
awesome.
by when do you want to know where you want to go?
Right.
By when do you want to be in that new career? By when do you want to start that business? And then we create a project around it.
That's great. So you have a like a target by when that's a moving, it's
Yes.
not, and then you work backwards
Yes.
and create.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I like to, coaching is different than therapy, as I'm sure you know, Don, in that I work inside projects. I work inside what is the person wants to achieve. That I think is what is life coaching is all about. Like, what is the tangible goal that you want to work towards
Yep. I
that you
also,
haven't been able to reach?
what I like about coaching as well, I find that it's present based.
Hmm.
So I have a training in social work as well, which is awesome. And there's a place for, you know, crisis management and analyzing
Trauma and
childhood.
yes,
Yeah, all that
absolutely.
stuff. And I actually just worked with a trauma therapist who was awesome. He did some EMDR work, and I found it very useful. And I think there's great tools and all of that. But what I love about coaching for me is it's very empowering today. Where are
Yes.
you today? We don't need to talk about 25 years from now. Where are you today? And where do you want to go? And how do we get you to launch to
Yes.
that, whatever that is? And you can always add goals.
Yes. And they change, right, over time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's why coaching, I'll always have a coach.
Yeah, they change over time and you may reach your goal and you're like, oh, this was great. And now I want to work on this part of my life. Now I want to work on this area, which happens as well. And sometimes you want to work on more than one project at one time. Like there have been cases where I'm working with people on a work project, like where do you want to go in terms of your job and relationship project, and a wellness project all at the same time.
Yep.
And it's like we are multifaceted, we are multi-talented, our lives are complex. There's no reason that we can't tackle all these different things because we are, like what we eat, who we're with, what we're working towards in terms of our jobs is part of our day to day.
Yep.
So those are things that we can actually look at and say, well, let's actually create a structure. Let's create something that's intentional. And that's the part that I love about coaching because it puts the power back in your hands. It's like, what do
Yes.
you want it to look like? Where do you want to
Yes.
go? What's important to you right now?
Right. And it's empowering, and it's like I said before, it's a spotlight. It can serve as a spotlight or a discovery. I like to use the word discovery because you discover
Yes.
together, as the coach and the coachee, so to speak.
Yes.
It's a journey of discovery, and you're helping to. I'm assuming you make it fun because you're fun, and you're
I
and
try.
you're
That's the goal.
and you're helping them figure out what other hidden facets, as you say, hidden creative aspects of self, because we all have them.
Mhm.
Like you said earlier, and I don't think it was on the live conversation at that point, that you don't have to be a musician or an actress or an artist or a muralist to be creative.
Mhm.
You just
It's
have to
true.
be human.
No, when you think about it, we're creating all the time.
Yep.
We're creating in our choices every day, all day, from when we wake up, the things that are running through our heads, how we're being at work, the things that we're cooking, the things that we're eating, we're creating. That's us in our creative energy.
Yep.
What if you actually were really intentional with that energy and say, this is actually what's fun for me. And this is where I want to focus my energy because if it's going to be out there anyway, might as well be something that's authentic to me, that shares, expresses who I am. And how do I make that work? How do I balance that out with all these other competing interests?
Yeah.
And that's actually where the work is.
And also how do I do the have tos,
Mhm.
like I have to eat healthy food. That's one of my commitments. So it used to be like, oh, I have to eat healthy food. And now it's like, ooh, what am I going to cook today?
Yeah.
And it's work, but it's a commitment. So the end goal is commitment to health, especially during this past year. So
Yeah.
I actually became a really good cook because I committed to creating healthy. And by
Yeah.
creating healthy, I kind of make it fun, Taco Sunday,
Yeah.
different things. But it's a shift in perspective.
Yes. It all is. It's all change of perspective and knowing that we have the ability to create the narrative, like I'm talking about creating, like you get to create your story. You're
Yep.
actually the protagonist of your life.
Yep. I
And
say to some people, you're the director.
yes,
This is a
you're
movie.
the director,
You get to
you're the
pick the
movie
actors.
star.
Yeah, you get to pick. You
You
get to
know,
pick who's in the play. You get to pick the
you're
whole
the
thing, the
spotlight, you
music.
are the diva, or you are stage center of your life.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what do
Awesome.
you want it to look like?
Yeah. And if it's not what you want it to look like today, what do you want it to look like tomorrow?
Exactly.
And Mery the Nerdy Coach helps you to get there.
Yes.
So tell me where people can hear your podcast and tell me the name of it. I know I'm going to include it, but
Okay. So it's called Coach, like life coach, Coach Taku, Taku. And
yes.
it's actually a play on the Japanese word for otaku. And otaku in Japan is what they call those people that are really obsessed with anime or other strange things.
Awesome.
So
And
that's
that's
kind of
you.
really fitting.
Yeah, Coach
So we
Taco.
just combine coach with taku, Coach Taku. And you
Yeah.
can find us on anywhere that you listen to podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, you name it, we're on Stitcher, we're on iHeart, I think we're on Amazon now too. So wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us there.
Awesome. Great. So they look up Coach Taku, Taku.
Taku.
And is it weekly, monthly? How?
It's weekly. We put out
Awesome.
episodes every Friday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And then
Cool.
we also go live on Instagram around 6 p.m. every Friday to talk about the episode that was just released.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've actually seen or heard, I guess I should say, the 6 p.m. one. Awesome.
Yeah.
So now I know where to find you and I get to
Yes.
listen.
Yeah,
Yay.
it's exciting for us and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I congratulate you for doing some great things, especially during such a difficult year. The fact that, you came up with something to generate and create in a tough time where a lot of people are confused and nervous and scared, but yet you still took the opportunity to create something fun
Yeah, thank you
and
for that.
challenging. Yeah.
Thank
Awesome.
you. It was definitely a lot of fun for us. And I think in light of all the dark and heavy conversations that were taking place in the world, we wanted to have a different conversation.
Yeah.
One that brought a different narrative to the story.
Yeah. Because I mean, there are a lot of conversations that are necessary today. And
Yes.
yet we still get to you're creating a space where people can have a conversation, like you said, from a different angle or a different viewpoint or
Yeah, and to remember that even though a lot of us have been on lockdown, that things are getting better, that life does continue, that we are moving forward, and to really think about what you want for yourself.
Yep.
Like you got to create even in spite of all the circumstances.
Yep, exactly. And how do you want it to be, even if you are locked down or whatever the
Right.
situation may be?
Yeah, there are still so many different ways to think out of the box and make sure that you're sourced and taking care of yourself and creating the things that you need to create for yourself to keep yourself healthy, sane, well, and moving forward.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much. I always clap. I'm like, yay, it's so
Yay,
good.
we can clap. We can nerdy clap.
Yay, nerdy clap. It was so fun to talk to you, and I can't wait to
Always
see
fun
you
to talk to you.
again.
I
Yeah.
know.
And I know that congratulations. We're both vaccinated and
I know, we're really
it's so
vaccinated. I'm so excited.
So I know. So hopefully we'll be able to
Have fun in person soon.
yeah, exactly. We can meet halfway or,
Mhm.
we'll figure it out. But it was so great to have you today and introduce you to my followers. And so they get to see who you are and see what you're up to. And and follow your podcast and learn all
Yay.
about being nerdy anime style.
Yeah, definitely. And if anybody wants to reach out, please feel free. I'm super open. I love hearing from people. So if you have any questions, want to know more about coaching or the podcast, I'm totally there for it.
Okay, awesome. And what I'll do is I'll include at the end of the video all your contact information so anybody could reach out to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dawn.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye. See you later.